You clicked on it and you're here to stay. Welcome back, everybody, to the What's He On About podcast. Up and coming for you today. India dominate England. What a tough week it's been for England. And not just in India. Australia dominate the world, including England women, England Lions, and Sri Lanka. Innings victories everywhere. We'll look forward to the Australia second test match versus Sri Lanka, and then we're gonna bring it all together at the end with a thinker. I'm gonna get you thinking right now. The question is, what is the most amount of runs ever scored off a single delivery? So think about that as you go along the episode today. And the other question I hope you're gonna get answered today is, what is he on about? It's been a horrendous week for England. India, absolute domination, outplaying England in every single department, including a 150-run win in the fifth T20. Records broken everywhere. And let's start with a few of the Indian players, shall we? Varun Chakravarti. He seemed to just control whenever he wanted an England collapse to happen, he'd take advantage of it. England players had no idea what was going on. Chakravarti, googlies, leggies, probably some flippers in there as well. He was absolutely dominating us. Let's have a look at some of his stats. 14 wickets in just 18 overs. He bowled in all five games, 18 overs, 14 wickets at an average of 9.8. Absolutely incredible. He had all the England batters twisted around his little finger, and we had no idea what was going on. Let's be honest, they had absolutely no clue. Chakravarti was all over the England lads. Abhishek Sharma, one of the great T20 innings, had the pleasure of watching this, and he gets to 100 off about 30 odd balls. Unbelievable stuff from Abhishek Sharma. He is so going to be one of the great next up and coming T20 players of all time. He just takes advantage of the other team. We got absolutely pummeled. No one can play innings like that and not go on to great things. Abhishek Sharma, top stuff. We talked enough about the Indian players now, I think. Let's talk about their impact substitutions and the horrendous display that went on in the fourth T20 and moving on to the fifth, because the match refs had an absolute shocker. Okay, Shivam Dube, he gets hit on the head, couple of balls to go in the innings. He thinks he's all right. He keeps on playing in the fourth T20. Then they come out to bowl, and India have decided that Dube has concussion, and so they bring on Harshit Rana. They say, here's a like for like substitution. Let's bring this guy on. Let's have a look at the stats, shall we? Shivam Dube averages 40 with the ball, so 40 runs per wicket in T20 internationals for India. Harshit Rana, in the T20s he's played, averages 22 with the ball. Bit of a difference there. Bit of a difference. And Harshit Rana, he's actually batted 3 times in 26 innings in T20s, and that was replacing Shivam Dube, who just knocked 53 off about 20 odd balls. So yeah, there's another great like for like little link there. So if that wasn't enough, just to rub it in, just to make sure India truly demolished England in that final T20, Shivam Dube, he decides to turn out 2 days later to come and play for India again. Absolute shocker. I mean, they've got the audacity to bring him out after saying he needs to be subbed off for concussion. All right, it's unbelievable stuff, and I can't quite believe how it's been allowed to happen. To be honest, not saying that is any reason on earth why India beat us. I thought they were going to absolutely smash us anyway, even though I predicted an England win last week. We'll glaze over that, but that little concussion impact sub, whatever you want to call it, really grinded my gears. I'll let you know about that. So let's have a look at the England players. India, we'll put that to one side for the minute. We might drop back into it in a few moments' time. But Joss Buttler, Adil Rashid, Brydon Cast. They seem to be the pick of the England players, don't they? Rashid, some quality spells. A 1 for 14, a 1 for 15, 4 overs each for those spells. I think it was in the second and third T20. And Bryden Cast, handy runs, handy wickets, especially in that final T20. He was the only England bowler that really truly had a grip on that game. Everyone else were just it was just falling away, wasn't it? Abhishek Sharma was dominating everyone, but Bryden Cast held his own. That was great to see. And Josh Butler, a couple of decent knocks. Again, he would have wanted more from the series, but you felt like he had an okay series, you know? He felt like he's setting himself up gradually for ODIs, Champions Trophy, and into IPL. You know, he's just approaching that incline in form. You can see that happening. Now, if you're the topper order, the higher order England batters, we've got Ben Duckett, Harry Brook, Phil Salt. These guys, they all scored, I think they all got one decent innings. They all got 150, but they were just all not performing at the same time. It was so tricky to see, you know, when you got three of the top four all just not in good form. You know, Chakravarti's tearing them apart. They're hitting balls straight up in the air. This Bazball entertain mentality was going pear-shaped, and no one was there to hold it all together. No one was there to say, lads, calm down. All right, we're just going to take a little chill pill here. All those lads went all guns blazing and couldn't quite handle it, could they? But they've got great things to come. Hopefully, they'll all have a big part in the ODI series and show their true colours. Livingston and Bethel, very similar story. Just didn't have that big score, did they? I mean, Bethel only played 3 games, batting down at 6 or 7, and he had 3 innings, 7, 6, and 10. I mean, it's an incredibly tricky place to bat. You know, you're adapting to the game situation. So hard to know what situation you're going to come out into. And Livingston had the same issue. Averaged 14 with the bat. Both of them didn't get too much of a bowl, and it made you think really tough series for these guys. But if they could have just maybe had 1 or 2 innings where they stopped the collapse and maybe got England to a sort of 170, 180 score, that could really have changed a couple of the results big time. Mark Wood and Jofra Archer, I think people expected more from these guys, and they took their fair share of pumping, didn't they, throughout the series? But they'll be back, 100%. I don't want to dwell on their negatives as such. And I'm a big fan of T20 being Ashes prep for these guys. Huge fan. And Mark Wood and Jofra Archer, they're going to be back in fine form, and hopefully a few more overs in the ODI game, a little bit more rhythm, and they'll be steaming out into the test arena, scaring the Aussies, 100%. Uh, Little shout out to Gus Atkinson. 2 overs bowled in the series, 0 for 38. And I think he got 2 off 13 with the bat. So a tough series for him. I think he only played in the first T20 and didn't get another shot. But Gus Atkinson, you've had a golden year last year, so maybe you had to take your fair share of low points, but he'll be back. He'll be back for sure. Saqib Mahmoodi took a triple wicket maiden in his first over, then went 0 for 38. That was a tough little moment. Other than a great start from him, could he play a few more innings in the ODI series? I think so. Just final England player to talk about, Jamie Overton, and I think he definitely bowled well towards the end of the series. But the problem with all rounders is when one part of your game is going really poorly. For example, Jamie Overton averaged 5 with the bat in the series, and he's seen as this sort of, you know, strong hitting, good lower order batter to come and get some runs later on in the innings. I understand he's coming in a little bit early in the innings than he wanted to, but it's not an excuse, is it? It's professional cricket. These guys have got to be able to adapt situations. And Jamie Overton, for me, because of his bad batting, I think it really shone a bad light on his bowling as well. And it almost made us really look closely at Jamie Overton's bowling, saying, do you deserve to be in this series? Do you deserve to be in the team? And to be fair to him, put in some great bowling spells. But do I think as a total package he deserves to be in this team? I don't know. My patience is wearing thin on Jamie Overton. I want him to perform, but he's not performing yet for me. And I think if we can find a different all rounder, maybe Sam Curran come back in. He's got great experience out in India playing for Chennai Super Kings. So who's to say he can't fill that role? But Jamie Overton, definitely a bit of pressure on his spot. Talking about pressure on people, a little bit of growing pressure on Brendan McCullum and his mentality. A lot of people saying, you can't just be all entertainment, all sixes, all fours. You've got to be able to rein it in. And it's only been 5 T20s. You know, I agree with Josh Butler. Josh Butler came out and said, we got to back the style. Just got to put more emphasis, more belief in ourselves and just believe in the style. And I agree with that. I think Josh is right. And you can either keep their style, play seven batters and one all rounder at eight, and just back yourself that one of those top seven are going to go big, which didn't really happen in the T20 series. But I think that's better than having top six and then Overton at seven, because all out attack is not sustainable with just six batters in T20, you know? Or the other way is you need to have a little batsman in there, like a Joe Root, like a Dowie Malan, who will be there for the whole 20 overs. And when things start to go poorly, someone is there just to hold up an end, make sure it's calm everyone down and keep batting, fill out the 20 overs. And the issue was, Adil Rashid, Mark Wood are coming in over 16, 17. That's not how you make runs in T20 cricket. But that is the likelihood of what is to come. I look forward to the 50 over series now for England and India. Jamie Smith, I'd like to see come in. I'd like to see him maybe come in for Phil Salt, take the gloves, put Josh Butler up to open. Joe Root's obviously going to come in at three. All right, and that'll look like a really good little setup. I think Jacob Bethel might have to sit out for one or two of these ODIs. Just on that, I mean, he's not batting where he wants to, let's be honest, but he hasn't been lighting it up either. I think that's a pretty easy swap over. I want to see Atkinson in for Overton. Atkinson obviously sat out a lot of the T20s, and I think Atkinson can make a good impact in there as a bowling all rounder, sorry. And if you've got Atkinson and Cast, they're going to get some runs between them. They're not bad batters, so it doesn't massively affect the balance of the side, even though the tail looks quite long with both those two, Jofra, Wood, and Rashid. But I back Cast and Atkinson to get some runs big time because Overton hasn't been doing it. So why does the tail look any different if Overton's in there? And to be honest, have a little prediction, little look forward. My hopes are that Root comes in, shows everyone how to bat in India, gets a ton off about 130 balls, saying that, you don't have to go all guns blazing to get runs out here. And then Harry Brook gets a bit of confidence, gets a ton off nothing in the next game, and we win 3-0. But it's not going to happen, is it? And I have a really horrifying feeling that England are going to lose 3-0. But just for a little bit of the fan in me, we'll say India 2-1, just give England something. But I kind of want to be surprised this time. Don't want to get my hopes up. We're going to go 2-1 India. A little last point on India. It feels like the point of reckoning. It feels like that final point for India of old versus new. So new dominated England. Abhishek Sharma, Tilak Varma, Sky, all dominated England. Okay, that's the new form of India. Now, Rohit's back, Kohli's back, Rahul's back, Gill's back. These players that have been under the cosh in Australia, all of a sudden you're playing against a very similar England lineup, and it's a chance for Gautam Gambhir, the coaching team up at India, to decide who's better, what approach is better. And don't get me wrong, if India come out and win 3-0, it's lights out. I mean, Gautam Gambhir can do what he wants, but a lot of pressure building up on Kohli, who got 4 off 2 in the Ranji Trophy, and thousands of people came to watch him. A lot of pressure on Rohit after a tricky series in Australia, and Gill hasn't been lighting it up either of late. So we'll see. Can Rohit, Kohli, and Gill fire in India home conditions, or will they struggle once more and give the selectors some headaches? Who knows? That's all to come for the 50 over series. 2-1 to India is my prediction. Now, Australia dominate the world. The English will hate to say this, but this is what's happening at the minute. Australia beat Sri Lanka by an innings and 242. They beat Australia A, beat England Lions by an innings and 10 runs. And Australia women beat England women by an innings and 140 runs. A little dive into each one. Australia men's, let's start off with. How do they keep getting better? Every year I seem to think it's over. They're ending. They're aging. Usman Khawaja's coming on 39 now. He won't get a double ton in the next game. Smith, he's aging as well. He won't get 140 odd in the next game. How are they doing this? How do they seem to keep going? And the selectors, they can't do anything wrong, can they? Kuhneman's been brought in, 9 for in the match. Stark or Boland? We'll go with Stark. He was absolutely golden. Seems to take a wicket in every spell. all right, as a pace bowler in the subcontinent. It boggles the mind how good this team are, you know? And Sri Lanka, they didn't exactly help themselves, did they? A few drop catches in there, but Australia were just out and out the better team. All I pray for is that Sri Lanka take the initiative, take the Pakistan approach, and say, right, lads, we're going to produce an absolute Bunsen. It's going to turn sideways, and Prabhath Jayasuriya is going to take some wickets. That's all I can hope for. All right. I know it's going to work both ways. I know Australian spinners are quality as well. But please, lads, take the initiative and create the Bunsen. Australia will struggle, I promise you. All right, but so much Sri Lanka's batters, so there's the issue there. Australia A, they absolutely dominated the England Lions by an innings. A ton for Joshua Philippe, a ton for Curtis Patterson, and there's no let up for the English, is there? And I mean, I've heard Aussies say, all right, I've heard Aussies say this. They think, oh, England they'd have learned something, wouldn't they? The Lions they'd have learned a great deal from getting pumped by an innings and 10 runs. And I'm thinking, what are they going to learn? What on earth are they going to learn from getting rolled in Australia? 116 all out, and I think maybe 200 all out in the next innings. But there's nothing you learn from that. I don't see how they think this is a great learning experience for the England Lions. I mean, all they've learned is that it's blooming tough to go over to Australia and get any kind of result. So England Lions, they're struggling. I think Bashir's struggling, which is really sad to see. Hopefully he can gain some confidence. But I think there was a ton for McKinney in there for England, so something to take away. And obviously Rocky Flintoff had a good middle of the series. He got a good 100 there as a 16-year-old. That sounds ridiculous to say, doesn't it? But a quick word on the Australian women dominating England women. There's no let up once again. 140 odd runs and an innings, by the way, that victory. And the Australian women they just feel bad. That they've come out and they said, I just genuinely feel bad for these guys. And the English women, they dropped a few catches, didn't they? They didn't exactly put on the perfect display, did they? And I think what really annoys me, it happens in the men's game as well, is Australia come off the back of a whitewash to England and they dive deep into what the England review is going to look like. They're saying this is what they're going to look at. These things are wrong, these things are wrong. But I feel really bad, a lot of pity. I don't think the English really care, to be honest, about the Australians' view on what's going to happen in their own review, and they just love talking about it, don't they? Anyway, a little prediction looking forward to next week. We've got Thursday starting the second test between Australia and Sri Lanka, not Lancashire, Sri Lanka. And again, I'll say it once more. Please, Sri Lanka, produce a Bunsen. Produce a pitch that turns. All right, turns from ball one. I want to see dust flying. I want to see I want to see so much dust, all right, that I can't even see the ball. That's what I want to see. All right, that's as a neutral fan, by the way. I have nothing against either of the sides. So I think, unfortunately, no, sorry, not unfortunately, good for the game, isn't it? Australia, I think, will win this test, and I think they'll win the series 2-0. It's a bit of a backtrack on some of my predictions from last week. If you haven't seen the TikToks, go and check them out. But I do think Australia will win, even if Sri Lanka produce a Bunsen. I think Australia are too good. Another double ton for Kawaja incoming. Now, you've had a chance to think about it. We're coming into the final segment of the show, the little thinker of the week. How many runs off one ball is the most runs ever? You might think seven, eight, nine, maybe even 10, but the answer is 286 runs. You won't believe it, will you? It happened between Victoria and Western Australia at some point in the 1930s. All right. And the Instagram loved it. All right. The Instagram absolutely loved it. Again, go and check that out. But the openers, first ball of the inning, someone pumps the ball into a tree. All right. And the batsmen set off. They start running and they end up clocking up 6 kilometers between the wickets. An absolute mammoth of a run there. And the fielding side, they found an axe, tried to axe it down, didn't work. They got a rifle out, tried to shoot it down, that didn't work. And when they eventually got the ball to drop, they couldn't catch it. So one of the opening batters was 286 not out. The opening partnership was 286 off one ball, and the lad at the other end was naught off naught not out. And I must think this Victoria must have been 286 for none off 0.1. Imagine his bowling figures there. You wouldn't want to be the opening bowler on that day. But that is the end of the podcast. Make sure you follow the Spotify podcast. Give us a rating. Make sure it's 5 stars. Go and check out all the social medias. If you're on Apple Podcast, give us a review. Give us a follow. Make sure you're following on all the social media platforms. Let me know what you want to come up on the next podcast. And I hope it got answered this week of what is he?